Today is the full moon day of the fourth lunar month, which is also known as Buddha's birthday. I decided to have a birthday celebration ceremony at the headquarters located in Renton City, Washington State. In today's program is as follows. I will mainly focus on the preaching of his birthday ceremony, and then we will also bathe the Buddha. However, I need to release the 10 precepts of Buddha's novice monks for Mrs. Diu Tian. She received the precepts and practiced short-term monkhood in Australia for a few dozen days to transfer the merit to her mother, whom had passed away in Vietnam. Then I will begin the preaching. I now relieve you from not sleeping on a luxurious bed, not eating at inappropriate times, not wearing cosmetic, not singing, not dancing, nor wearing any jewelry, not having any adultery, and retaining the money. However, I do not release you from the 5 precepts. 6 precepts and the 10 goods I pray to transfer the merit of your practicing short-term monkhood toward your mother's soul. May she be reborn in the Pure Land of Amatet Buddha. Nam Mô Công Đức Lam Bồ Tát. On this Buddha's birthday celebration, I will give a thorough lecture on his birthday, and then there will be a bathing ceremony. I will preach for an hour, and Buddha's birthday ceremony will also be for an hour. I want to emphasize that we need to know about Buddha's birthday. Every year you come to bathe the Buddha, but Shakyamuni Buddha himself is not dirty. 2,600 years ago, several dragons had already bathed him. However, the sutra said that in the Kupvastu citadel, he has never been born and has never passed under the Talala tree. This is about our imperishable Buddha's nature. I want to collect all the praying scrolls after this preaching. Uncle Nga, please collect all of them and give them to me. We were taught to bathe the Buddha in the temple, but that is simply a form. We must understand the important part, which is the meaning of the ceremony, to have merit. If not, we just lose a whole day for nothing. As you see, most of the temples don't do the ceremony of Buddha's birthday. They only do it on the weekends. Isn't that right? Before the pandemic, or even just during the pandemic season, I organized the ceremony right on his birthday. I'd like to introduce this Buddhist follower who had just moved up here from California. He just knew about today's event because Diu Pham failed to inform him. He heard this area is cheaper than California. So he rented out a house for $4,000 in California and realized renting a house here is only $2,200 a month. That way he can save $1,800 every month. He said it was so lonely here, and I told him that he could slowly forget it. He lives close by our temple, perhaps a 5-minute drive. Recently, he was planning to sell his house in San Jose. He was about to complete the sale, but he stopped because he was afraid to sell his house, and he will never be able to buy it back if he wants to return to San Jose. He's a graduate from UC Berkeley with a computer engineering degree. A few years before me, and he went to work for decades already. I became a Buddhist monk. When it comes to disciple, he only has one. And I have a few thousand. I say this for fun only. He said, "It's so empty here." Well, because of the pandemic, if I announce it publicly, it would be too crowded and we have no seats. Another reason is because the temple is preparing to be built. The city demands the temple to be taken down because they feel it is not safe. The paperwork is still complicated because of the sewer line issue. Yesterday, Diu Pham went to a meeting regarding the sewer line. We assured the sewer line would be connected to the main sewer line, but there isn't one. Our sewer line has to tie into the neighbors. We now have to wait for the neighbors to give permission. The city no longer allows us to use the septic tank. We are going through many stages of paperwork. I now send my greetings to all Buddhist followers online. I am Master Thich Lai at the headquarters of Tham Nguyen Temple, located in Renton. Today is Buddha's birthday, which is also the full moon day of April. I want you to know that when I was a child, Buddha's birthday was not on the full moon day of April, but on April the 8th. According to the Brahmin calendar, full moon is April 8th. Later, over 100 countries that practice Buddhism gathered together and chose Buddha's birthday will fall on the full moon of April, according to the history of Buddhism found in Ananda University. You should know that when Buddha was still alive, there was no bathing ceremony for the Buddha. The Buddha's bathing rituals were done after Buddha passed on to China. After the Buddha had passed away, his followers remembered him and they did the bathing rituals. In fact, it is a ceremony to show our thanks to Buddha because he found a way to liberate sentient beings from samsara. He had practiced several kalpa. According to the sutra, a kalpa is as long as all the sands of the Ganges River will multiply by 1,000,000 zeros. The Buddha practiced for that long to find the path to liberation from samsara. We now see that it is very simple. If you want to be free from samsara, you can practice Zen. Practice the sixth perfection. Practice the Pure Land. Practice Tantra. Or practice the Lotus Dharma. And practice other dharmas that were left behind by the Buddha. The Buddha was the one who found a way out of the firehouse. You and I are still in the firehouse. Indeed, this period is in the house of fire. The United States is a heaven realm compared to other countries. And it had also have been devastated. Don't you think that the pandemic is over? I had a disciple who was married to an Indian American. called to inform me that her husband is now dead. He already had 2 vaccine injections and worked as an engineer for Microsoft in the United States. He flew back to India for his mother's funeral, and he died in India. The Indian doctor tested and said that he was infected with a new virus variant. This new strand of COVID-19 has not affected the current COVID-19 vaccine. Did you know that this variant virus broke out in Napa, in Thailand, in Cambodia, and also in Vietnam? I took the vaccine so I can travel to do Buddha's work, performing supportive recitation when my disciples are at their final hours. Some doctors said that this vaccine is only valid for 6 months, not for a year. Now, new variants have exploded in India. My Indian-American friend who flew back to India to attend his mother's funeral was killed by a new COVID. So that's very sad news for this pandemic. We are now in the Dharma ending period, as the Buddha said. There would be 7 years of plague, 7 years of war, and then 7 years of hunger. We now only have 2 years of plague. Only 2 of the 21 years has passed. Do not rejoice when you see the value of the house increasing. We are now being tricked. In 2019, the contractor estimated $200 per square foot for commercial property. We plan to build a new 3,100 square feet temple. So I calculated it would cost $600,000 to $700,000. I think we can do it. But when I went to Dr. Jung's funeral, his son said it is now at 285 square feet for residential. Commercials are now more than $300 a square feet. I didn't believe it, and I went to Home Depot to ask for a 4x8 plywood. They said it used to be $11, and now it's priced at $63. So the price has increased by 500%. He said a 50-year-old 1,000 square feet house in Seattle was 3,000 square feet of land is about $600,000. The architect said houses are now worth $600 a square feet. I went to California to talk to the Buddhist nun at Nguyen Cung Pagoda. She also said that the contract estimated $600 per square feet. The architect said $300 a square feet if you do it today. Next week it will be different. I thought it was going to cost $600,000 to build the temple, but now it will cost $1.5 million. The house prices now continue to rise. I've been in contact with people in real estate, and they told me that there isn't any houses on the market for more than a week. In the past, when the economy was normal, it took 1 month to 2 months to sell a house. Now, there are no houses listed for more than a week. Currently, Kings County of the state has about 400,000 real estate agents, but there are only 50 houses for sale. Yu Pham said that if you want to sell a house listed at 500,000, you have to pay 550 to 600,000 with cash, not with a loan from the bank. Now the demand is high because the price has just risen. The price rises up like that because the Democratic Party is selling your money. For example, in the past, you paid $5 for a watermelon, but now the price is $9 to $10. Now everything is doubled and tripled. Now the government gives you $600, then $1,400, but the price of the house is also very high. Uncle Nga laughs because his house is worth $1.2 million. He is laughing because he hasn't sold it yet. If he has to pay taxes of $1 million, not $400,000 to $500,000. In addition, no one wants to work because the unemployment benefits are higher than wages. 2 weeks ago, I went to change a tire. There was one mechanic and 5 cars were waiting. So the shop could only change one wheel. I had to go to the regular Mexican shop in order to change all 4 tires. The price is too high right now. Don't be happy to see the price of your house go up. People are racing to buy houses to keep the value of money because real estate will increase in value with inflation. I haven't gone to the market for a long time. I took $100 to buy vegetables, and I thought it would be a lot, but I could only buy a little. Everything is so expensive. Now food has increased several times. In the current economic situation, the aviation industry is also dead. The good industry is also dead. The real estate industry is also dead. The nail industry is dead. The hairdressing is also dead. My disciples told me that they used to make more than $10,000 a week. Now they only make $2,000 to $3,000. This pandemic has not stopped. Someone asked me if I will have a retreat at the youth center. And I said it all depends on the governor. When the governor opens up, I will organize the retreat. For example, if Mrs. Mai cooks at the youth center and dies from the pandemic, will her husband forgive me or not? Because of me, his wife had died even though she was vaccinated twice. We are performing this ceremony to show our appreciation to the Buddha. We are living in very terrible times right now. When I went to a few funerals during the pandemic, only Mr. Deng's funeral was very fortunate to have a large crowd. He was very blessed. I went to San Jose for Hai's mother's funeral. She was also blessed. Normally, at the Oak Hill funeral, the funeral are done outdoors under a canopy. However, this time they allowed us to go inside the funeral home. Do not assume the situation is better because you saw that. Before the pandemic, Social Security was enough to spend, but now it is not enough. Your Social Security check is only enough for half a month. There is no production in the United States at all, but numerous illegal immigrants are rushing to California and Texas. Every day our money is being stolen. Where does the federal government get the money? They keep printing money. For example, if you have $100,000 in bank, you can buy a house in the past because the government keeps printing the money. You can only buy a mobile home. As a matter of fact, a mobile home now costs $200,000. Ask this fellow, and he will tell you a mobile home now costs $350,000 to $400,000 in San Jose. A townhouse in San Jose runs around $800,000 to $850,000. So people in California move back to Texas or Florida In my opinion, I think the pandemic has not come down. It transformed from one pandemic to another, but there is no work. There will be a lot of layoffs from school because students learning online. That being said, we are at the end of life, and if you get sick with COVID, you will not receive the supportive recitation. Buddha left behind the meditation sect, but now you can't meditate like this original disciple to end this cycle of birth and death. Yesterday, I made a phone call to a few Buddhist followers to inform them that I would celebrate Buddha's birthday tomorrow, but there was no online announcement. The Buddhist follower asked why I did not and responded that the Washington government has not opened up yet, so if anybody knows, they can go. That fellow said that she planned to go, but she needed a driver. Therefore, she wanted to know the duration of the ceremony. I told her it would take about 2 hours. She then asked if food will be good or not. I said that all the cookware had been removed, but Mrs. Thong planned to serve vermicelli and bamboo shoots. Unfortunately, vermicelli is too expensive, so she would serve a flour paste only, because flour is cheaper, and all she needs to do is stir it with water and serve. The Buddhist followers then replied that she couldn't go because she's too busy, and the ceremony would be too long, and there wouldn't be any good food like they were before the pandemic. Do you think Buddha will be sad to hear that? The Buddha studied and practiced the vows of Bodhisattva for several 100 million years to find a way to save sentient beings. But we complain about reciting the sutra because of our tiredness. Mrs. Thich Chan must thank Buddha and God that you can still walk. Imagine if you can't walk. Will you be sad? She was the one who always showed up first before the pandemic, whether it was cold or hot. She sat outside on the porch to wait for the temple to open. Recently, she fell and now could not walk. That is when she realized that it was a privilege to be able to go to the temple. So we have to think about Buddha's sacrifices. He left behind his Dharma for us to practice. The simplest method is practicing the 5 precepts. If there was no Buddha, we would kill many lives of the animal to feed to ourselves. Because of the no-killing precepts, you are hesitant to kill an ant or mosquitoes. So even smashing the mosquitoes and reciting rebirth Dharma mantra, the karma will follow us like a shadow. Because of practicing the no-killing precepts, you would find a broom to sweep the bugs out. If there was no Buddha, we would create countless evil karma. If you didn't make a precept against stealing, how bad would we be? The temple is the place where Buddhist followers come to think about Buddhist sacrifices for many years. Being born as a human, we have the privilege of being able to listen to Dharma. We must take advantage of our time as humans to practice and learn karma. Human life is only around 100 years old. In this assembly, Di Utrang is 81 years old, Uncle Nga is 75, and as young as me, and I have already reached 70. You see, life passes quickly as lightning. A new baby was born on April 30th, 1975. Now is 46 years old. As you remember, when I came to Gak Home Temple, Liu Zhang just took care of her husband's funeral and returned to Vietnam. When she returned from Vietnam in 2003, she was sitting at the table, and it has been 17 to 18 years now. You see, time goes by like a flashlight. If you bring an animal here, can it understand Dharma? Of course not. It can't escape animal life. So if you become an ant, you will be very fragile. Those infected with ant infectiousness will find ant's life very fragile. The no-killing precepts restrains us from killing karma. Let's talk about the no-stealing precepts. Don't you get your stuff stolen at the temple or not? Buddha's followers are those who keep the precepts of not stealing. Why does every woman in here keep your purse very close? The third precept is not having adultery, but Buddha's followers commit adultery or not. The fourth precept is not to consume intoxicating substances. And the fifth precept is not to lie. We violate almost all of the 5 precepts. Someone asks if the dog, it's so smart, why didn't it go inside the human womb, but instead become a dog? A Varnamo master said, because we still try to commit, even though we know it is wrong. Therefore, some of the sentient beings are wearing fur and horns. Once it becomes an animal, it won't be able to recite the sutra. Aren't you happy if your dog or cat can now bow to the Buddha? People post clips of their dogs and cats bowing the Buddha. You have to think that just because you are healthy this year, that doesn't mean you will be able to go to the temple next year. So please utilize this opportunity to practice Buddhist Dharma. Please don't complain about why your Dharma master asked you to recite the sutra and Buddha's name for a long period of time. Let me make it clear to you that only this temple asks you to chant a lot of Buddha's scriptures, but not to sell stuff. Now, if you were to go to other temples, you would turn into waiters and waitresses to sell food. Honestly, I only need you to cultivate to repay the Buddha. Today you come to bathe the Buddha. Does Sakyamuni Buddha need a bath? What are you really bathing? Is there actually a Buddha inside each of us? Yes. But why did your Buddha die? If your Buddha is still alive, we are not ordinary people anymore. But we are Bodhisattva with a physical body. Do we have a Buddha inside us? The answer is yes. Is there Buddha's nature inside you? Yes. Do we also have a demon nature as well? Yes. However, every day we live with both our demon nature and our Buddha nature. And our demon nature is more than our Buddha nature. Therefore, when we die, we will see the demon instead of Buddha. In our ending time, you will see the huge obstacles because it won't be easy for you to recite a verse of a sutra or hear Buddha's name. In the Earth Stored Sutra, this is described very clearly. Glancing at it, you think it is easy, but in reality, it is very difficult. So at this moment, you can still drag yourself here. That is a blessing. If you want to chant sutras at home, please do it. You can recite sutras today, but you may not be able to do it tomorrow. We have to be thankful to the person who spent many billions of years to find the way out of samsara for us. If there was no Sikmani Buddha appearing in this world, would we know about Amatet Buddha? Would we know that the earth-stored Bodhisattva? Many people say that they don't believe in the earth-stored sutra. But those who have a loved one who had passed away, they will see the earth-stored sutra described very clearly. Let me tell you a story. Uncle Chan had a younger brother who worked at a company named Boeing. And he was the chief engineer at the Boeing company for 40 years. And his brother suffered from flesh-eating bacteria for 3 years. At first, his father passed away. Then his son passed away. 6 months later, his younger brother passed away. In our culture, it is known as repeating death curse. There will be 4 people in the family who will pass away within a very short period of time. Uncle Chan worried and came to see me. I told him to write down his son's name, and I placed his son's name that he wrote down in Kuan Yin holy bottle. I then prayed to Kuan Yin to help him to lift up this curse of repeating death in the family. Before the younger brother passed away, he was very alert and not confused like other people. However, he refused to eat and drink. He would see a rice that was very fresh. He would see the rice full of maggot, and he would see the water as rotten. Therefore, he refused to eat and drink. He died at the age of 58. A young engineer with a high educational background died to a disease called ectoparasite. This is also known as the bacteria eating flesh. It would eat all his flesh all the way to his bone. And there is no cure for this particular disease. They have medication for AIDS. They have a vaccine for COVID-19. And even cancer is treated by radiation. At the end of his life, when his state of mind was still clear, but he saw rice as maggots because he would be reborn in hell. As you can see at his funeral, there's not a single person who can recite the sutra. His children were too young. His wife already married another husband before he passed away. Now only Mrs. Phuong and Uncle Chan attended his memorial service at the temple. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have to value these moments. Do not lament why the Buddhist sutras are so long, and why am I forced to chant and keep Buddha's precepts. Ladies and gentlemen, our suffering are not compatible with the sacrifices of the Buddha. We are not here not because we have to give him a bath. We have to think why the sutra said that the Buddha was never born in Kaliptavistu, that he had already become a Buddha for a very long time. Mr. Tuk Chun seems weak. Please take her home. You see that? She wants to stay longer to listen to Dharma, but can't. Please think about it and wake up. You must know what is real and what is not. Please tell me in this life what is real and what is fake. The Buddha nature is the real thing. Now that you heard this, let me ask you something. Was the love your parents gave you real or fake? Is it real? And the love from your spouse, is it real or is it fake? The love from your spouse is fake, and the love from your parents is fake. The husband that you married so you can take care of him, is it real or is it fake? He is fake. So we live with the illusion more than the real. Would you be jealous of your sister if she took care of your mom? No, you wouldn't. But will Mrs. Nga be jealous if some other woman take care of her husband? Yes, she will. As you can see, we all choose fake things. You also see clearly the karma of birth, living, old age, and sickness, and death are real. They are the path that we have to trend through, but we never really pay much attention to this because we are all living with the fake. Speaking of this, I am proud of Buddhist followers from Oregon. The first group is Mingo, then Yi, Lan, and Uncle Hua. They always show up at the temple first because Uncle Hua woke up before 6 a.m. Mrs. Howe had been selling recycled cans and donating them to the temple. Selling recycled can is not as simple as you think. She spends 3 hours getting here from Portland, and she would spend 3 hours getting back. She gathers all the can and bottles here and brings them back to Oregon. She then has to wait in line to scan each can for merely 5 to 10 cents. Once she reaches $15, she has to leave so the next person can scan theirs. The machine gives her the coupon to trade for money with the cashier. After that, she then returns to the waiting line for another $15. The waiting line is very long. At 6 a.m., there are 7 people already in line. However, amazingly, she always brings in $500 to $600 every time she drives up here. How did she do it? Every time she sells the recycling can, she recites Buddha's name. Ladies and gentlemen, that is cultivating. Because of that, I really appreciate her, and I really appreciate her dedication. People who live far away really appreciate the preaching, but not those who live nearby. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to repay Buddha's sacrifice. I am a disciple of Buddha, so I know that Dharma is about to come to an end. I really sympathize with other temples because they are trying to survive during this pandemic. Without selling food, they wouldn't be able to exist during the pandemic. I am blessed to have Dharma protectors to support, so I am not in debt. Secondly, I will never ask you for a donation, but still have money to survive during this pandemic. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can see that Dharma protectors are here. They will support you if you firmly believe it. I guarantee this because I believe it with my heart. There are people who also believe but not believe it 100%. The truth is that Buddha never let any Buddhist temple be destroyed if they practice his Dharma correctly, properly. I assure you that. So people come to the temple because their parents are Buddhist followers who go to the temple. Therefore, they are also Buddhist followers. There are people who come to the temple to be vegetarian for 5 to 10 days. Is that also cultivating? No. I want you to think about this. We are inheriting this merit of this life. Or is it the merit of a previous life? Yes, it is from the merit of our previous life. How many more karmas do you create in this life? From the moment you step out of bed to the moment you sleep, how much karma have you created for the Pure Land world? And how many karmas are from this world? We mainly create karma from this world. So from today, I want you to stop complaining. If you are still healthy, you can still chat a book from the Great Lotus Sutra. Then you can keep chanting. But if you can still recite the Earth-Stored Sutra, please do not delay. Because at the time of death, it is said in the sutra that the eyes and ears cannot see or hear anymore. You already saw your grandparents at the end of your life and how they saw the afterworld, the hands tied to catch invisible things. Before Hai's mother was about to die, she kept seeing everything around her were uncleansed and were full of maggots crawling. They were unhealthy. Their eyes could only see matters of this world. When they were about to leave the human world, they would see things from the demon world. Duknya, did you take care of your father at the end of his life? Was he ill? Did you witness your mother die? If you ask those people, they would tell you that they saw their grandfather, grandmother, and relatives. Before Mrs. Van's husband passed away, he saw people in the evening. These were the dead from the underworld. Did your husband tell you that he saw his father? As a matter of fact, you and I don't have much time. Because of life and death, this temple or other temples won't be able to pass on the Dharma language to the next generation. Buying flowers on Buddha's birthday and pouring a few buckets of water on the new-born Buddha statue that is made with stone or cement is simply a predestined relation. How is your individual Buddha dirty? He is dirty because of your greed, your hatred, delusion. Just like a while ago, someone asked me, why did I repay such a hefty karma to help a nice person be reborn in Pure Land? Let me tell you, in the gentleness, there is also greed, hatred, and lust. This person had lust. For example, there was a poor man who loved a beautiful woman from a rich family. He was too poor and wouldn't have the nerve to ask her, and she wouldn't talk to him. Every day he went to the front of her house and sat there from dusk to dawn. What do people call his action? Planting a seed tree. For example, there is a person who loves a girl. She said that his mother was too strict and didn't want to live with his mother. If he wanted to marry her, he had to live separately. And he also had to cook for her and her mother because she was always a baby in her family. The wife's side said that she was blessed to have a husband who would do everything for her. In his biological parents' view, he was so unlucky. So which is the truth and which one is the delusion? Let's see. Who gave birth to him? Who raised him? However, just because of beauty, he then ignored his biological parents' request. When I was young, I did not understand anything about planting seed tree. I now understand that it is the dumbest thing, which is also one of the worst karma. Most people often praise the person who is planting seed tree and don't condemn it. Isn't that right?